thought soldiers. So today I have a awesome podcast with my brother Tyler. I met Tyler about probably a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, and have been working with him one-on-one. He has helped me through a lot of stuff in my life, as well as I've helped him through a lot of things in his life. And we wanted to get together and have a little collaborative effort to talk about spiritual awakening. And so the topic we're going to talk about today is our spiritual toolkit and things we use on a day-to-day basis to help to further advance and grow in our spirituality. So Tyler, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
As always. And Tyler, tell me a little bit, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you came about in your spiritual awakening, what woke you up, and what helped you get to this point that you're at right now.
Man, it's been a wild year. And that's the craziest part is this transition happens so quickly, right? And I think that's happening. I think more and more people can relate to that, how things are just kind of ramping up. They're speeding up. More and more people are awakening. Mm-hmm. Mine was a little dramatic. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but I died. Long story short, I was just kind of drifting through life, not really just kind of following into the societal patterns of working a job I didn't like, to buy things I didn't care about, and yada yada. And then suddenly I found myself one night I was called to lay down, and I had a stroke, and I watched my spirit leave my body, and I left it behind, and I got a lot of downloads then about how my reality wasn't what I'd been told my entire life. And it was probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to me my entire life. It put me on such a great path to meet great people like yourself and others, right, that are changing me. And it's so exciting now, this time in our lives. I think I'm hitting, in another 2 months will be the 1-year anniversary of my death.
Wow. And that death it's representative of so much, because it's not only, the physical death, but it was the death of the old and ushering in this new Tyler that's coming about. And what is the greatest, reflecting back on that experience, what is the greatest change you've seen within yourself as far as newfound strengths or newfound awareness that's really helped you to evolve and grow into this person you're becoming right now?
I think there was a lot of my greatest strength has always been empathy. And I think a lot of people, again, can relate to that, right? We're all very empathetic, but we don't quite see the real magic behind it. We're kind of taught that it's just you empathizing a feeling, right? Like you're like, oh, I could almost feel that, when in reality, you are feeling that. Mm-hmm. That is something, you are taking that from somebody, not taking it, but they're projecting it, and you are taking it and processing it yourself. And I think the coolest thing for me is that identification of being able to separate other people's emotions from myself and kind of become more sovereign to my being, to my truth, to my this wisdom I've always had, but I always kind of kept it buried down, suppressed these intuitions, or whatever you want to call them, right? These creative flows. Suddenly I would get inspiration, or I'd look at someone and it would be like, you're lying to me right now. I have no proof. I have no proof to call you flat out, but I know it. And It was so cool to wake up and find that I'm not the only one, and I'm not crazy as society might tell you that you are. And it was incredible kind of working through that and finding that inner strength.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, empathy, I feel like for a while has had this stigma attached to it that it's almost sympathy.
Yeah.
And empathy is simply just the act of being able to take yourself out and be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes for a little bit of time.
Absolutely. Look at it from a higher perspective.
And with compassion. And being able to really feel for that person and kind of understand at a whole nother level of what it's like. And it's been a blessing and a curse, because when we are the unevolved empath, it's so easy to soak all this up and to take it on as our own. And then the more that we start to evolve and get further along into our journey, and we know what our natural imprint is,
Mm-hmm.
which we've talked about this before. The beauty of shadow work and unraveling beliefs and kind of stripping away the external to find what your soul imprint is. Because then when those things start to enter your field, you could recognize that it's not yours. And then you can have better judgment and discernment as to what is yours and what isn't yours, and really start to understand the pure essence of what your soul is and how it speaks and in what voice it speaks in.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So I wanted to start out talking about awareness, spiritual toolkits, awareness. So what has helped you to grow in your awareness of how you interact with your environment and this creation of our reality, and how, in fact, all of these circumstances, whether they be fortunate or unfortunate, were created by us? So what has helped to kind of level up your awareness in your spiritual toolkit?
Well, I was very lucky that I had a physical world teacher that came to me and kind of said, he gave me a piece of advice, which was, he saw where my path was kind of going, and this was right before I'd kind of woken up, and he just looked at me and he said, figure out why everybody does what they do. And from there, you will learn about yourself and you will grow. And I started to realize that I would kind of take on the feelings and emotions of other people. And once I started looking at it from that higher perspective that we talked about, where you're looking at like, why are they doing it that way? If I was in their shoes, how would I have handled that? And you realize for the most part, you would handle it the exact same way. That's the thing, right? And it started to kind of unravel that who I was and like how I reacted to things, because I started seeing the traumas that led people to act out in ways that were unfavorable or bad or negative, right? Mm-hmm. And it was interesting just to be able to take that knowledge and apply it myself and go, okay, well, what traumas do I have that are creating that? What past story of Tyler am I using to further this narrative? Where am I putting my energy where it shouldn't go? So for the most part, that was the most powerful piece of advice I got at that point in my journey that helped me kind of kickstart that higher perspective mentality.
Mm. Yeah, and it's very interesting, because for me, I always carried with the quote by Albert Einstein, which is, a wise man learns from his own mistakes and a genius learns from others. And it's really being able to take a step back and see the awareness of being aware of everything in your reality and how it could all tie into us and what we're going through. And so what helped you break your patterns, especially when you were kind of on this trajectory that was an unfavorable trajectory, and this intervention that happened, this spiritual intervention that caused you to kill off the old and to bring in this new? What's helped to be able to grow that level of awareness for you?
Well, I think that kind of that tidal wave that came in and kind of it, for the most part, it swept away a lot of the old beliefs, right? When you're kind of shaken up at that degree and you're shown that this is all a dream for the most part, right? Like when you die, you just wake up and everything fades like a bad dream, right? Where you wake up in the middle of the night, it was so real, it was so serious, and then all of a sudden it fades and you're just left that kind of like, what was that? like yeah, what the fuck was I just, what were lungs? Why was I breathing? What is breathing? What are words? Like, and you're just kind of left in this state of just peace, right? You just wake up from all that and you realize like family, friends, everything just gone in a moment, gone. It wipes away. Yeah. And for that really shook me, right? That really shook my whole reality to make me go, if this is a dream, if when I die, it just wipes away, then why am I living it for other people, right? Why am I working that job I hate to make somebody else money? Why am I doing these things? Why am I suppressing my passions and the things I'm interested in, even if they're not the norm, right? If I want to look into more occult things, if I'm like telepathy makes sense to me, why doesn't it make sense to anyone else? Like, and little things like that. Why am I suppressing myself? And if I get to choose my reality that I live in, why not make it the most empowering and the most, just the best for me, right? That fits me personally. And I think that's what people need to take away, is that that's the most amazing part of this journey, is that you are shaping your reality, right? You are bringing, you do that internal work and the external comes to you. I've been doing a lot of internal work, and I'm sure you feel this as well, how you start to do that internal work and you start to see physical body changes or this or that. Like I don't claim to eat like a bodybuilder or like a fitness person, but I've just been losing weight like crazy. Every time I go inside and I take off more layers of that negativity, more layers of that fear, I find it physically sheds off me. I'm creating this version of myself through that internal work. And I had a conversation with someone that's struggling right now to lose weight, and I said, because she's pretty good about going to the gym, maintain a healthy regimen of eating and everything like that, but she's just not going through it. And I suggested that maybe she's using the gym and everything as a distraction as opposed to looking within.
Well, and it's also how we feel about ourselves, like, because all of this energy, whether it's past traumas, beliefs, things like that, all hold space in our physical body. And I feel like when we start to love ourselves unconditionally through unraveling these traumas, really taking those looks at ourselves and integrating the shadow, integrating the ego, not suppressing it, but letting it all become a part and accepting it as a whole. That reflection of self-love then starts to reflect externally, because when we view ourselves as attractive and worth it, we automatically are putting out that energy to the world. So not only do we see it in ourselves, but others see it in us, and we start to embody these beliefs. And I feel like it starts to come out physically. And also too, when we get to this level of awakening, we're now running off of ether. We're running off of pure spiritual energy and pure light. And because of that crystalline light body that we have and those activations and adding these strands to our DNA, we're now also more conscious of what we are putting into our system. And like for me, it's not perfect. Like I woke up this morning and I was like, I want to eat 5 taquitos from 7-Eleven, and it was crap food. But I
get it, girl.
You get it, sweetie.
Yeah.
But I learned now that my body talks to me and it craves certain things. And sometimes I need those grounding foods to anchor in this higher level of wisdom and higher level of guidance and really bring it down and push it down to the earth. Because I know for me, I have a lot of root work issues, and I know a lot of light workers, if we're just talking about Reiki and our chakra systems, a lot of us have sacral and root stuff, and being able to just like anchor these higher chakra awareness into that lower spectrum. Sometimes we need to have those heavy foods and listen to our bodies like that. But like we were mentioning, being more conscientious of what we're putting in our bodies too. We're now running, not only are we upgrading spiritually and emotionally and with our intellect, but our bodies are upgrading with it too. It's the whole pie that needs to be upgraded. We can't just upgrade one and expect everything to keep up. We need to upgrade our bodies. We need to upgrade our environment. We need to upgrade our self-care. And all of that ties into how we embody it and how it reflects externally as well. So
yeah, and that goes back to what you're saying about breaking those patterns, right? It's you start taking those steps towards, everyone, you're sitting there like, I feel like shit. I've been gaining this weight. I don't know what to do. And a lot of it's just breaking that first pattern. It's like, well, would you eat when you got home? Or how many meals a day do you eat? Or, did you walk? Did you, like, if you have an office job, maybe consider walking or standing portion of the day, because it's little things like that, little implementations that over time you start to, like, I find myself, I have a physically demanding job, and I still find myself working out at the job, like doing chin-ups on machines just because I'm a fucking animal. Like,
just pass time, get something to do.
Yeah, it's but I also change my perspective on it. And for me, doing that little bit of extra work is like, I look at it as a reward. Like that's a benefit I'm giving my body, right? I'm saying I'm worth it enough to be putting in that extra effort. I'm worth it enough to be putting my energy back into my physical form, right? To putting my spiritual energy into my physical body to keep it running optimally, right? And I think a lot of it comes down to, like you said, self-love. Are you worth it? And you are. You have to live with yourself for the rest of your incarnation, right? You might as well enjoy your company. Yeah,
Darn.
exactly.
Yeah.
But then you start to realize that you can change your form. And
Mhm.
again, this is on, once you get to higher levels of understanding and everything, you realize you can change and adapt and grow, and how you perceive yourself is not how anybody else perceives you, right? So you're changing your form as you learn to love yourself more, and other people are seeing that reflection, and they're seeing it in their own realities as something totally different, right? I have a belief that I truly believe that certain people will see you based on your opinion of yourself. They'll see you as a supermodel, or as just I don't know, someone unworthy of love. And that's because that's what you give to the universe. You say, I'm unworthy of love, and the universe goes, you know what, man? I love you. I love you so much that I will give you exactly that. Is that what you want? Because
Yeah.
that's all you think about. So here, you are unworthy of love, right? Are you happy now? Are you happy now? And it's a painful lesson to learn, but it is a lesson worth it once
Well,
learned.
it's interesting because, you know, we're entering, this is what's been popping up for me recently, is that it's like my spirit and guidance has been telling me, you've arrived in a new paradigm. Okay.
Mhm.
So basically you're divinely protected, that when you go out and you put yourself out to meet people and to create your reality and to expand. And this is a conversation we've had about finding our tribe out in public and putting ourselves out into a situation where we can let our tribe to attract, is that it said that, and spirit has been telling me, you're protected. Those bad patterns you had in the past and those old traumas are not going to happen in this new paradigm. Put yourself out there and be open to receive and let them come to you. And I started to practice this more when I quit my job. And I noticed I had no headroom with clients. Nothing was coming in. I was hermiting, and I was sitting in, you know, and I still do it, where I have those days where I just kind of want to sit at home and not do a whole lot, because there's still a level of fear of not being unloved, but just fear of, because I've broken these patterns, but I'm so used to that pattern that I'm like, there's some fear of experiencing the new. But I'm growing to recognize that when we completely trust that at a higher level, people are being swept in to save us and to help us out at a whole nother level, we have to be open to letting that come in and to trust the process, because there's very vital lessons that come from every character that plays a part in this dream.
Absolutely.
And the more that we deflect those characters from arriving, we're stopping ourselves from expansion. We're stopping ourselves from growing. We're stopping ourselves from a new level of awareness, but we're also stopping ourselves from experiencing a new reality. Because this is what, you know, and I'm saying this because this is what I'm going through, is I'm like, I want a new reality. I want all this. And then I jump in and then I'm not experiencing the reality. And it's like, wait a minute, you have to go give it a shot and give it a chance. You know, don't be content prior to investigation. Enjoy it and experience it and learn from it and grow, because that's what's going to happen. These people and these situations that come into our lives, it's either for a season, a reason, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
And we have to be full knowing that that is a possibility. And like we've discussed before, it's not like pain isn't going to happen in 5D. We're just not suffering anymore.
Yeah.
So there's going to be hardships, and there's going to be, because that's where growth and expansion occurs. When we fall down or we experience pain, fear, struggle, any unfortunate circumstance, that is how we grow and we learn. But we're no longer having to suffer and sit in that for a long time. And if that suffering does occur, it's the realization that it's of our own making.
Yeah.
The universe doesn't want us to suffer anymore, straight up.
And I heard a quote that was actually really interesting that goes along with that, which is, through this sort of path, through this sort of enlightenment, you realize it's not that heavy shit becomes lighter, it's that you're stronger to heavy shit, right? So it becomes lighter because you have a stronger character, you have better tools in your tool belt to be dealing with it, you've got better a better people around you, you've got a better internal universe running that's for you rather than against you. And once you start to change that mindset and you start looking at negative things as a way to learn and grow, I've been struggling myself right now with, I have a job that's very, just doesn't light my passion. You know this. You and me have talked about this a few times, Corey. A few times we've
more
talked
than a few
about
times. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that I can feel myself getting pushed out of it, right? And the universe is looking at me going like, you know, you could, if this is what you want, you could have it, you can still have it. But I find myself little things like suddenly I'm not waking up on time, or I'm finding myself running late, or there's traffic, and it's like constantly. Today I took a day off for very little reason, and it's because I feel myself getting kind of pushed out that door, that it's just not serving me anymore, and my reality is trying to shift me away from it. But it's interesting. It's definitely a learning experience.
Well, and the part of co-creation too is, while you are, you know, you're ending up the cycle of this journey, it's important to plant those seeds right now and to start watering that, because as we know, we're not going to reap the harvest on the same day we sow the seed. We must sow
the last
those
thing
seeds.
to grow on the tree is the fruit.
Exactly. And not every seed that I've seen, well, you know, once again, I don't want to project this into my reality, but not every seed has the ripest fruit that is going to be good for corn. In the story that I'm trying to harvest for myself. And so that's why planting those multiple seeds and jumping those timelines and watering them and watching them grow and seeing what is going to reap the best harvest, or, you know, maybe it's the culmination of all the fruit together that is going to make such a beautiful meal for ourselves. And so it's important to plant those seeds, and I'm glad you contacted me today, and we're planting this seed. We're starting a level of growth and expansion, and I just want to commend you for the growth it's taken to get to this point, to be able to get you onto camera and to be able to finally have this conversation, because we've been talking about this for a while. I love our conversations, and I love what comes up when we're vibing and holding space off of one another. And I'm glad we got to finally hit record and put it out there. So as now that we're discussing where a lot of us are at on this journey, and people that I'm working with right now, you know, I took the leap of faith into just doing this full time, and it's not as fruitful, you know, income wise as I expected right in the beginning, because that's just the way it is. What tools are you using right now to help prepare yourself for the next phase of your journey? Because a lot of light workers right now are really starting to embody their 144,000 role and their healing modalities, and they're helping, and, you know, whatever they're called to do. What tools are you using right now that are helping you to prepare to launch yourself into this next phase of your life?
This sounds a little strange, but it's boundaries. Boundaries is the biggest one for me. It's setting boundaries with family, friends, loved ones, people that I care about, or maybe, you know, don't care quite as much about. And it's setting that, because that's the hardest thing going forward, is allowing people to have their opinions, but not letting their opinions affect you, right? Not letting their opinions affect your self-worth. And that is the most important thing that I'm going through right now, is slowly amping myself up, getting ready for that, you know, because I want to do more Ascension coaching. I want to do more light work. I want to do more digging more into the occult stuff. And I really just what excites me. It's the most interesting, because it's is a lifetime of learning, and it'll never end. And I have to be prepared now when it comes to speaking my truth and setting those boundaries that, hey, this is negative, I don't want to deal with this. Or, hey, this is, you know, like, this is not conducive to my growth, so I have to cut this or cut that, or I don't want to talk about that, that's negative. I recently had a couple of situations where you got political season up where I am in Alberta, right, in Canada, and it's just getting, well, it's political season. I'm sure it's pretty common world round, right? It's time to sling mud at everybody and think that this is, and I had to shut down a couple of people that wanted to talk to me about that sort of thing. And I'm like, that's just not my reality, man. Like, it doesn't vibe with me. It's never affected me. I don't know why it would suddenly now.
Yeah.
So it's just speaking my truth and setting those boundaries. And I'm so lucky. I've got a partner in my life right now who is really helping me work through those, being true to my emotions, which you and me have talked about, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, right? The divine masculine is all about that head knowledge, or the divine feminine is all about that heart knowledge. And she is helping me in a lot of ways reconnect to that heart, being open and vulnerable to letting that information in. And that's another tool I'm working with is learning to trust my heart more, and to put it out regardless of what I think other people will think. I just let it out. I put my truth out there. I say, hey, this hurts, or this isn't feeling the greatest, or hey, I'm not like, I've been working a lot. Well, you and me have talked about this with jealousy and stuff like that. That's kind of been my new battlefield, as it were, right now. And I'm enjoying it. I'm learning so much, but it's nice to have someone in my life that allows me that room to grow and holds that space without judgment. Right.
And I'm glad you touched on the masculine, because this is what we were going to talk about. And I do kind of want to segue a little bit into the discussion of the masculine, and the role, that the societal view of the masculine. Because, you know, for so long, as we know, the masculine had to be strong. We couldn't feel. You know, crying was a form of weakness. You're too emotional. And this is something that a lot of us awakened, empathic, highly sensitive masculines dealt with growing up. Was, you're too sensitive, you're too this, you're too that, and
dramatic, or you're yeah.
Exactly. And it caused this level of shutdown when it came to feeling, and kept us in an old paradigm and this old way of don't feel, suppress, push down. And it's something that we've seen a pattern going on with, like, wars breaking out and things like this. Like, when we look at the history of man and genocide and, like, tyrannical leaders, like, a lot of them, how much of them were suppressing their emotions and weren't letting these come and processing them and not feeling them. And it's interesting, because we're now shifting into this reality where a lot of the masculines, and at least me and my embodiment of the masculine in my realm right now, I had to shut off those people that were saying your emotions are weak, your sensitivity is a weakness. Yeah. Because I saw it as a strength. And it was hard, because I always connected more to the feminine, because I could share that level of heart with the feminine, but I couldn't with the masculine. Yeah. And now this is what's nice about this paradigm, this new paradigm, is the emergence of the new masculine is basically finally integrating the feminine. You know,
I've noticed that seems to be the pattern with the awakening, is the divine feminine, the women in our lives, that they're trying to find that masculine to hold their truth out to the world. Because it's easy to let the emotions run, but it's hard to sit there and draw your line in the sand and say, no more, I know my worth, right? Like, I'm not gonna. And that's where they're drawing in that masculine energy, that no more of this bullshit. This is
the protector.
This is me. This is my worth. And if you don't like it, gone, right? Yes. And for us born in the masculine image, we're learning to reintegrate those emotions and get back in tune, to be back in sync, so that we have those lines, we can draw those lines, we can do that kind of stand up for ourselves. But we needed that emotion to kind of keep us from going that tyrannical route, right? To go, like you said, to go into that direction of being toxic masculinity, you know, those guys that you couldn't look at a guy and go, hey man, you're looking cute today, and they'd be like, oh, this is outrageous, I'm not gay.
Yeah, right.
Like, yo man, I was just letting you know.
Yeah, you look good today, like, deal with it.
What looks good in those jeans? What's gay about that?
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
Completely straight.
Yeah.
And sorry, that's really funny. And what's interesting though about this whole thing about the integration of the feminine and masculine, we still have a divide with the feminine movement. And I have to say, with a lot of these feminist movements, they have every right to be like, screw the masculine, for all of the traumas and all of this damage that our people have done. But once again, that standing up, like the feminine standing up against the masculine, is still creating a divide. And the
pendulum swings, right? Like, it swung way in the lack of rights and the lack of hearing those voices and hearing that feminine. And we have a lot of situations in our society where we really weren't looking at that. Like, again, I think you and me have talked about this, the Nikola Tesla, his view on women, how he said, how he talked about that what we recognize in our society is things like, we always look at the inventor of a great project, or the artist that created these incredible works of art, or these composers. What we never talk about is the woman behind them that drew that inspiration out, right? That pulled that out of them. And I think we should be focusing more on those duets, as opposed to just, we focus more on the actual hand that built it, not the heart that brought it out of it, right? Like, because it is two pieces, right? I'm finding myself being drawn to be the best version I can be for that lighthearted, that feminine energy, right? That draws my masculine out. That makes me want to be the best I can be, and it pushes me and forces me to be more of what I want to be. So I think in a lot of ways we went in that side of the pendulum, and now we're swinging the opposite side, where now it's kind of attacking at men. And you see that with race and everything else. And while you're on the spiritual path, you realize that a lot of times, and this is the hardest part, right, is realizing that you put yourself there, right? You made that choice before you incarnated. You 100% knew what you were doing when you came into this role. You knew, because you're never just man or woman or white or black or Asian or whatever, right? You're never just one race or one species. Like you're coming in on different planets. You're coming all over the place. But the fact of the matter is, for this incarnation, you are here to learn lessons that relate to whatever you incarnate as, right? And I think that's the interesting thing, that a lot of people, it's really hard. It's really hard to come to that realization, especially if you are a part of a suppressed minority, or it's easy, there will be people that look at me and say it's easy, right? It's easy for you. You don't understand. And
right.
100%. It's not something that exists in my reality. And that isn't that.
But we still have our own struggles though. Like we all have, it's not like our external presence, like, yes, we want to go into white privilege and go into things like that, because I know that's what we're touching base on, especially being, a white masculine, that we may not see things from another person's perspective, but it doesn't discount our own struggles, and our own. And this is once again that masculine suppressing, or even society suppressing what you face and discrediting it and discounting it. And a lot of this journey, and a big tool for me, is evaluating and then giving value to my emotions. Like seeing what it is and then recognizing it, and not saying, oh, because this person went through this, whatever, that now all of a sudden my emotion towards a certain situation, or the way I reacted to a situation, is now it's out of sync or out of line. No, it is what it is in that moment. And that's a huge part of this, was having to stop making comparisons to struggles and to tragedy and to trauma, and really knowing that this is my trauma. It may not be someone else's trauma, but it is still traumatic to me, and to be able to work through it, because when I discredit it and I silence that voice gets louder and louder and louder. I talked about this in a video a little while ago, and I've talked about it with a few people recently, that when we have an aspect of us that is crying out to be looked at or to talk to or paid attention to, including traumas and things like that when we're going through our shadow work, is that when we suppress that voice or silence that voice or discredit that voice, it will start to talk back louder, because it's like a child. If a child is coming up and wanting attention and we silence that child, that child is going to start acting out in ways, and we can start to see that reflected into our reality. And so, we
have more people that trigger those negative emotions, those teachers, right? It triggers more things in you, and that's because I think you and me have talked about this. Like at my point in my journey, I kind of look at these emotions as almost like spirits that are kind of attracted to, and they want to be identified and they want to move on. They just don't know how. And it's through that identification. It's through really sitting down, looking at them and understanding them and giving them that love that they were so desperate for. That's where you're getting your energy from, right? These emotions are no longer controlling you. They're just kind of drawn to you because they know you're going to give them the love and attention they need, right? It's the unconditional love. That's what we're all learning. We're all here to learn, right? Is how to love everything, even the negative. And in the ways, right? They're all teachers, right? The good and the bad.
And now that we're mentioning this, I'm going to ask you something, because I want to see if you'll dive into this, is attachments. So remember that attachment that day.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
doing the meditation in the room and what the attack. Can you tell everyone a little bit about that story about this attachment and what it ended up actually manifesting as in your reality when you went into meditation and met this attachment face to face, what it was?
So I was having this problem when I was having these intense feelings of jealousy, and I'm not normally a jealous person, right? Like I'm a pretty, I trust you, do you, that sort of thing, right? I'm a pretty trusting person, but for some reason these intense negative jealousy emotions were coming up, and they were really fueling some dark fires. Some of them were things I was kind of pulling from another person, but that's neither here nor there. The jealousy was mine, right? It was finding somewhere to suck onto.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in a situation that I felt fight or flight. I had to get out of there. I was like, nope, that's it. Like this energy is too dark. It's too much. I gotta go. It's gotta be an external thing. It has to be this cloud hanging over me that's attacking me, right? So if I escape the area, I'll escape the cloud. I ran away, trying to put that kind of behind me. And I know I called and talked to you, and I said I had this entity attack me, and I didn't know what, like what's up with that. And you just kind of sat there talking to me like, okay, are we sure it's external? Because it had to have an anchor point. It had to have something inside to lock on. Otherwise it would have left you alone, because it wouldn't have had anything, nowhere to grab onto. And that really set me up to start kind of doing that internal search. But then we talked about a meditation technique about going inside, because I could see this entity almost like it was a physical thing, and it was blobous, and it was tentacles, and it was just this dark cloud basically. So you and me walked through this meditation technique, and where you just kind of sit down with that form and let it shift where it needs to shift. And when I sat there, what it turned into was teenage Tyler, about 16 years old, teenage Tyler. And I sat and I just looked at him, and I'm like, why are we jealous? Where is this coming from? And I realized teenage Tyler had cheated on his significant other at the time. And he was then karma cheated on, and he was cheated on many times in his life. And he, instead of taking that pain, so teenage Tyler's perspective, he took that pain and said, this is what I made somebody else feel. I'm now going to hold on to that, because that's who I am now. I am that cheater. That's my entire existence. I'm going to hold on to this pain forever, because that's what I'm worth.
Yeah.
And it clicked for me, because I sat there and I was like, I've never done anything like that since, ever. Why do I still hold that outdated belief of myself? Why am I still holding on to that pain? And why does it keep, again, showing back up in my reality? Why do I keep having the same pattern of someone cheating on me? And I couldn't figure it out, because I was like, I'm not that way. I'm not doing that to somebody else.
Yeah.
But finally coming to that realization and being able to look at myself and just give myself a hug and say, it's okay. We learned, we grew, we're together now. Like we don't need to punish ourselves anymore. We worked through it. We've learned this lesson. And immediately it was something that just dissolved away. That suddenly now I felt lighter, and I was like, man, like it was just incredible. It was an incredible experience to be able to see myself and see that aspect of myself and go, that's where that came from, right? From having no idea to suddenly that realization, being able to heal that past and send that love back to myself to say, it's okay, right? From your current, you didn't have that self-love at the time to think you were worthy of being with someone or being loved by someone. So you thought, well, this is fleeting, right? So I'm going to try to get as much love, get as much energy from wherever I can. And now it's, luckily I've changed for the better.
Well, and it wanted love. Like it's so interesting that cause I still have an old belief system that when there's an attachment that it's some external thing and we need to rid it and kill it. But what it is it's just a lot of this is just an aspect of us that wants attention. And as soon as we turn to face it and love it unconditionally and give it a hug and do it in this way, it got lifted. And yeah, it's not like it may come back around because there may be an aspect that isn't 100% healed, but it wanted to know that it was a part of you.
It wasn't alone.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to mention the attachment thing because you know, it's something that it was a really neat experience, because I know I had to do this through my shadow work where I had things pop up and I was like, oh, someone sent this at me, and once I met it in meditation, and this is why, as far as tools are concerned, meditation is such a valuable piece, is because we can really see the truth of this stuff and not listen to the programming of, like, you know, The Exorcist, it being some demonic attack and things like that. Because really, whatever you believe it is what it is going to be. If our belief is reality, but when we view it as an aspect of ourselves, it takes the power out of it. And it really it brings about this level of healing and growth, and compassion for all aspects, including our shadow aspects and the wrongs we've done. Showing it that love, and watching it dissolve and seeing it as ourselves. It's so much easier to handle than to think of it as this external, huge, strong force that is just beating the crap out of us.
Yeah, as opposed to this demon that is hunting you because of insert whatever reason you come up with. Right? It's easier to realize that the universe is trying to help you take these chunks out, right? It's trying to take these negative energies out of you, and it's saying, take responsibility, right? Take responsibility for your bad belief systems or your old negative emotions that are buried in, because the universe is love, and the universe loves you so much that it's going to put you through these turmoils and these troubles for you to learn and grow, so you never have to feel that again, right? But some people have so many negative emotions that it just kind of bogs them down and buries them down, and we've all been there, right? We had to get beaten down. We had to get beaten down so far that our ego cracked, and we decided, no more. This isn't who we are anymore, and that's how a lot of us rise, right? Like I don't know very many spiritual people that have had an easy upbringing or an easy life, right? Like you needed that pressure turned up to crack you, to break out of your shell, right? That caterpillar wanting to break out of the cocoon, right? To become the butterfly.
Exactly. And it's the phoenix rising from the ashes. Like, and that's where we've discussed this before too, destruction or deconstruction being the start of creation. And the moments of not only your external reality kind of falling apart around you, but our internal reality too. And I know, like, you touched a good point about the ego and things like that, because it's something I've been battling with for the last 2 weeks, is this ego aspect coming up and being very loud and in my face. But it was to show me that, like, it's no longer serving me. And for me, you know, I always said the ego was a protector, because there was a point in time that the ego did protect me from a lot of things.
Absolutely.
But, as a wall is put up to protect, it's also to keep out as well. So when these things come up and you're looking at it and, like, that voice is very loud, it's not that we silence it. We just learn to dim the noise down. And sometimes it comes up so loud till we get to this point of, like, you know what? You're just not working for me anymore. You served a purpose at some point in time, but right now you're blocking me. And we have to silence it and kind of let it down. And that's why these struggles and these things, like, I know I have moments where I'm, especially with the way energies have been recently, I'm changing every few days. And there's the healing doesn't stop. You know, it's going, because it's just at a more accelerated rate, and it goes deeper and deeper as these new energies arise. But yeah, like we have to go through struggles, because that's where we find our endurance and our strength. And if we incarnated to be a part of the 144, to be a light worker, we came knowing that we could handle all this stuff. And that's another neat thing to look at. A new perspective is that when we have struggles, intuitively knowing that our soul knew before we incarnated on this timeline that we could handle everything that was going to be thrown at us. And that's a new level of awareness. Like, oh crap, that's the level of my strength. is that, you know, I'm never going to be handed stuff that I wouldn't have signed up to be able to handle. It's not going to bring.
And you start to see it as like things in your life get bad, but they never get too bad. You know what I mean? There's a certain level that like it always works out. It always works out. Even when you think I can't go on, I can't move forward, you always do. You always, it never throws at you more than you can handle ever. And it may feel like it, but how do you know where your level is if you're constantly fighting the same thing, and this is kind of your masteries at this level until finally the universe cranks it up a couple notches and goes, let's see where you've grown. Let's see what you can take on and what you can handle and work through.
Well, and it's because if you're lifting a 5-pound weight every single day, you'll never know if you can lift a 20-pound weight until you go try. So the universe is gonna be like, here, let's throw this weight at you and let's see if you can lift this car. And you'd be surprised. You could lift up an entire car with your willpower and with your strength. And I'm glad that we're discussing the struggles a little bit, because we see, and you and I have talked about this so much, we're so quick to see the end results. Yeah. We're so quick to see the person after all the crap, especially glorified on YouTube, seeing all of this, like, look at me, I'm awakened, but we don't see the struggle. And even in The Secret, in the movie The Secret, your thoughts create your reality. Like, I think of mansion arrives, but we don't see all of the tests and the points of falling down to get back up, to rise to a new vibration, to be of a vibrational match to that which you want to attract into your life. Yeah. You know, and so,
and you don't see the reality deconstructing around that person and them becoming homeless or losing all their money or stuff, to find that will to go, you know what? I got to get to that level, right? I got to be ready. And the universe is going to take everything away from you. He's going to cut your legs out from under you and say, you know, you want better. I need to take away what you have, because otherwise you won't be able to, you won't strive for it, or you won't have that will. And a lot of times we get distracted in the process, right? We get distracted how it's going to come about. We don't realize that, because you and me talked about how well, like I've said before, right? It's my job. It's one of those things that I'm trying to get away from. Yeah. And in response, I found, because I said to myself, I wanted a more creative outlet. Yeah. So I found the universe providing me with all of these great ideas that I want to implement over time. And it keeps giving these to me. It's like, look, these are all the things you could do. Mm-hmm. Now, what are you going to do with those? Right? I've given you all the tools. I've given you all the tools. Are you going to move? Are you going to use them? Or are you going to keep sitting there and telling yourself it's too hard? It's too hard. You know what I mean? And this is one of those tools that I'm saying, you know what? It was time. I know you were having having your own struggles with not having as many things coming in. And I think this is a great new addition to your channel, to your life. And I think this will be awesome, bringing in more people.
Yeah, well, and also too, it's like it's such an organic conversation. And this is why I wanted to bring it about too, was to see kind of like the value of unity in the lightworker community and coming together and bouncing things off of one another. Because I know when it comes down to being a co-creator, we can co-create with one another, and especially those of us on the master builder journey. Like, we don't have to build 100% solo. Like, if you want to build completely on your own, cool, but we can all come together and bounce ideas off of one another. And our energies meeting at this point in time could unlock a level of awareness that is not available to be accessed just solely on our own. And this is where that discussion of energetic keys come into play, and the value of every frequency as it aligns in the orchestration of all of this is because as we know, if we go to a music reference, because, as we know, I'm a guitar player. Yeah. A chord is made up of multiple notes and multiple frequencies. The chord isn't one solid note. And so the role in the lightworker journey, not only in the interpersonal relationships, but the orchestration at a collective level and a universal level, is that every one of our frequencies plays a valuable role in the entire song. And if we remove one frequency, the whole song could go to shambles.
It's a combination of selecting notes and taking notes away, right? Like, if you can't just strum all the strings and come out with a beautiful melody, right? It's selecting who you want to keep in, who you want to take out. It's who we are, right? That's who our essence is, and we're all unique, and we're all our own chord. It creates a melody.
And there's movements. You know, we have movements where certain instruments get removed, and we have times where an instrument will come back in a later movement. And we also have moments where there's just one instrument during one there's a solo during that movement. And every piece serves its role. And this is where understanding and really trusting the process when things are falling away and coming back into play, and relationships fall out of resonance and they come back into resonance, is that is the symphony of our lives, is this natural ebb and flow, this natural coming in and taking away, you know, that we've had to deal with. So through this, I want to talk a little bit about discernment.
Oh,
you want to go into
your favorite
discernment? Oh my gosh. So, what's helped you with discernment? With as far as I know, for me, the shadow work and understanding my true energetic imprint is what helped to kind of understand when someone steps into my reality, how it vibrates into my reality and how it creates this song and dance. So what has helped you with discernment, with being able to discern, you know, what's good, bad, and the roles of every individual that steps into your life, or circumstance, scenario, so on and so forth?
A lot of times it comes to awareness, right? Like how aware I am of, like, I see people now as reflections of myself, and that makes it a lot easier, right? Like looking at someone and going, what are you working with right now? What are you working on right now? I'm so sorry. Just give me 1 second to plug in this. It's about to die.
That's right. It's all good. If this didn't go down without one technical difficulty, I would be wondering what the heck's going on. Just really quick for the audience, before this, my camera shut off and we had to like start a new meeting, and I can't wait to see the recording to see if it all goes together smoothly, because as we know, if it's orchestrated 100% smooth, it just ain't right, correct?
Yeah, exactly. There's got to be a test or a challenge somewhere.
Exactly. It's the only way we grow and expand. So
okay, there we go.
So, and I'm just getting blown up now. So discernment, bud. Discernment.
Yeah, I've been learning to identify as someone that, I just identify them as me, as part of me, and I have to ask myself, what part of me is this feeding? Right? Is this feeding who I was, or is this feeding who I am? Oh, sorry.
And it's that interconnectedness. It's that, once again, no longer having room for separation. Even between the divide of the awakened and the unawakened, which you and I have talked about, like, oh, we're around zombies, the sheep, you know, but still recognizing that it is that, and this is that new paradigm shift, is that unifying of everything, dark and light, good and bad, whatever we want to label that as. Even our own government structure and our political system is a reflection of us and our beliefs.
100%. I find a lot of things are shifting and changing. I apologize again, going to make sure this cord is frickin' charging.
Get it together, Tyler. Tyler, get it together.
I'm shit in the bed. I apologize, my friend.
It's okay.
Charge you.
We can alchemize that by calling it gold colored shit right there. It's gold colored shit.
It sure is.
That's how we transmute.
There are worse problems to have in life.
Bingo. That's a good way to look at it. Good way to look at it. Reframe it. So yeah, the interconnectedness is very true. No separation. Not leaving room for separation.
And finding a lot of times things are kind of coming together in like, you'll find, I'm sure in your own reality, there's certain things that aren't the same in other people's, right? Like once you start kind of going on this path and realizing, like, whether it's a band that you really like and you put a lot of energy into watching their stuff or listening, and then suddenly they explode. But other people are like, I have no idea who that is. But in your reality, they're huge. You're seeing it on your newsfeed. You're seeing it here, there, everywhere, right? It's huge because you're in that, you focused your energy towards that, and that thing grew. And so I find that happens a lot with me, is that I'll find certain things grow and shift based on where I allow that energy to flow, right? So like I made a comment that politics for me is just doesn't really work in my reality, and that's not me saying that I don't think it has a purpose or a place, but it's just that it doesn't it doesn't do anything in my reality. And that's the truth. Like in my reality, nothing changes, regardless of who is brought to power or who's this or who's that.
Yeah.
Not a thing changes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's about identifying what, because I think everybody coming into your life gives you an opportunity to, you're sharing your realities together, right? Like you're kind of mixing and matching, and it's about, is that person a benefit to me? And that sounds selfish, but it's when you love yourself and you go through that, that I'm not going to have myself needlessly suffer anymore.
No.
You start to say, you know what, like, is this person bring out the best in me? Does this person make me feel good? Right? Is there that, you and me have talked about that energetic exchange, right?
Yes.
And I've been a lot more conscious of who I give my energy to and where I let my energy, or where whose energy I take in.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and this is that role of that's harnessing the masculine, is that protector, because it's not only protecting others, but it's protecting ourselves as well, and really harnessing that aspect, which is a very valuable aspect in the role of the balance. But being more conscientious and weary of, because I know for me, and I know this happened for you too, when we first stepped into this journey, we were so quickly to give our energy to every single person and almost overextend to the point where we were deprived. And then we had to double up on the self-care. And then for me, I got resentful. I got really resentful.
One second, my friend.
You're good.
Sorry, you can keep going. I'm just muting this for a second.
Okay, yeah. So for me, you know, I would overextend way too much, and have to really start to take extra care of filling up my cup more and more. And when my intention was to help every single person in hopes to get that back from that individual. I'm smiling because this is funny to see you like quietly talking off in the background.
I apologize. We're trying to figure out this, the computer charging.
You're good. But I would get resentful. And so now I've learned how to be more picky and choose better with who I'm sharing my energy with. Now it's hard though, because when we step into the healing modality, the job, you know, like if a doctor were to be picking and choosing who he works with as clients, like, have you seen the movie Doctor Strange?
Yes.
Doctor Strange is like, why would I want to help that one and fail my career and da-da-da-da-da. When we step into the healing role, you know, the idea is to accept everybody into our reality as a whole. But it's more of who we share energy with at a personal level. I feel like this energy exchange is more now on the personal level, in the relationships that we build and found in this reality, not who we're healing necessarily. And I'm having to say that because there are times where I'm like, oh, should I be sharing energy with this person at a healing level? But that's where we learn to double down on the protections and the shielding and cutting energetic cords. And the importance of cutting cords in when there is a separation from a relationship, or people are phasing out of our life, the importance of cutting those cords so that energy is no longer flowing into us, which is definitely playing a factor in the way we shape our reality and our thought forms, and getting closer to our energetic imprint is having to sever that to step into our sovereignty. Because our energy is taken by everything. Our energy is taken by this conversation right now has a piece of my energy. I've given a piece of my energy to this conversation, and not in a bad way. But what I learned recently, and it's a tool I want to talk about that I learned from, I do a plant medicine class on Sundays here in San Diego. I volunteer at a yoga studio, and our instructor was talking about the process of getting our energy back. And it's a new process I started where every night before I go to bed, I just put my hands over my heart and I politely ask for all of my energy that has been shared throughout that day to come back to me. Because what happens, and this is the value of our energetic imprint, is that with relationships and traumas, so when we have a trauma, we have fragments of us that will get lost in the ether. We have to go retrieve those things, soul retrieval, which is a lot of heavy shamanic work. But the energy we share on a day-to-day basis, whether it be good or bad, it's given out, and we can collect that back at the end of the night. And it's a tool that I want to talk about is laying down and putting your hands over your heart and asking politely for your energy to come back, and thanking and honoring all of the interactions you've had throughout your day where you got to share your energy, but politely asking it to come back so we can now work from a full cup.
Absolutely.
Because and this is that protection piece and that level of taking care of ourselves, is because we need to do this on the journey, because like you and I, we were so quick to fill up everyone else's cup, but we were left with nothing, and we ended up depriving ourselves of valuable nutrition that we need in order to grow and to expand and to really step into the roles that we have, paving the way for other individuals on what to do when they awaken, and how to formally understand energy exchange like a business. And if we want a business to thrive and to be successful, there needs to be an even exchange. Or there needs to be a profitable point for the business to grow and to expand.
It's that level of making sure who you're giving your energy to, that it's where you're planting those seeds of that fertile soil to grow, right? There are some people that they're just not ready. They're not ready. They're too early on in their process to be that this kind of just sounds like mumbo jumbo to them, right? You don't want to focus your energy on those people that you're not getting it back from. You'll find a lot of narcissists, a lot of vampires in this community. I know you've dealt with some, and I've dealt with some. Yeah. And
got the black tourmaline and obsidian right here to protect me from those guys. Anyway,
I got my obsidian. I feel
that's right. Yep.
And it's that level of discernment, right? Because early in your journey, you won't realize there'll be some people that can be the sweetest people in the world, but you'll realize every time you deal with them, you're just drained, right? Like, and people don't realize that they're taking that energy, right? It's constantly that negativity, constantly, like those people that walk around saying like, oh, I'm ugly, or I'm fat, or I'm not talented, or I'm this, or I'm that. And you look at them and you're like, no, you are those things, right? Like you're exchanging that energy. They're asking for your energy, and you are consciously giving it to them, and you feel depleted at the end of the day. And it's about cutting. And it's hard because it'll be family, it'll be close friends, it'll be co-workers, it could be bosses, for God's sakes. And it's hard to make those cuts in your life. It's so hard. And I empathize for anyone that has those situations, those really difficult cuts, because it sucks. To put it politely, it sucks, but it's necessary, right? We all have, we have unlimited energy, but at the same time, very limited energy to how much our physical forms can give out in a day. And it's really about focusing that energy into the things that you really want to grow, or it's those focusing on those seeds that you're planting, right? Whether it's like working out or eating healthy, right? That's energetic seeds you're planting to bring that reality where you are that healthiest version of yourself to you. But you have to get to that level first, right? You have to be eating those foods. You have to be have that love of yourself in order to get to that level. But
well, and also too, I'm glad you mentioned this, because I was on the phone with and you know her, the wonderful Samantha Rodriguez from SamanthaRodriguezblog.com. We were talking last night about, I was mentioning that I have a tough time because when I love someone, and I know for a fact you relate with this, when I love someone, I get all up in their heart space. And energetically, like, I'm like, if I'm going to love you, I'm going to take you in, and I'm going to, and what will happen is that when things don't work out anymore, the only way I know to sever a cord is to have there be abrupt disruption that will sever the relationship, and then therefore leaving no room for that energy to arrive. And we were talking about the new healthy way of loving someone unconditionally is we no longer share our energy, we separate and we connect them to source. And I wanted to talk a little bit about just a little tool that her and I were running through last night, is the blessing ball. And imagining you are sovereign in your own gold blessing ball that is connected to this divine source light, but connect these other individuals to their own ball, blessing ball, and connect them to source. Because that is the new way, the new paradigm of loving someone unconditionally is no longer you take my energy. No, let me connect you to where I'm getting my energy. Let me plug you into where I'm plugged in. and get them tapped into their highest ideal and their highest purpose, and help them to upgrade to where now our extension of energy is no longer horizontal, it's vertical.
I like that.
It's no longer a horizontal connection, because there are still now, and I feel like there is a time and a place for those chords to come in. But the new idea was sovereignty and coming together and unifying under and all of us being sovereign in our own being is connecting them to the light. And this is once again a new shift and a new realization that I've had to come into is I no longer have to be a martyr and give my energy. Yeah, I can connect them, but also too the recognition of when these vampires come in, the only reason they can drain my energy is because I'm creating an opening for them.
Absolutely, you're feeding that energy.
I'm allowing it. I'm giving you permission to enter my field and to drain and to set up a drain point. And so, I see these people that talk about, this energy vampire came into my reality and they're everywhere. Yeah, but you're also allowing it in.
100%.
And this is where, these tools and expansion and shaping our tools and fine tuning our craft is understanding when we can still, because I feel like the vampires and the narcissists will keep us hermited. It will keep us locked up and isolated so we don't have to deal with that thing, or keep us alone and afraid of interaction. But there is a way where we can interact with people still, and these kinds of individuals, and not give them the power to drain that energy. And a lot of that is just being able to out vibrate it too.
Well, I think a lot of times those vampires, because like what they are is they're not. I think, at least in my experiences, is those vampires, those narcissists are just unawoken, right? They haven't had that. They don't. It's not that they're bad people. It's not that they're bad anything. It's that they don't realize they're in search of this energy because they keep giving it out themselves to the negative thought process, which are you and me both know they're heavily draining in your energy, right? Those negative spirals, right? Like it's a funnel that you're pouring your energy into, and it's just going straight. It's going straight to the bottom, and it'll keep going. It'll keep sucking as much as it can, and these people just don't understand that they're searching for that energy, that love. And you can find sometimes people can get a little bit crazy because they don't realize how dependent they are on other people's energy, right? And so people, I know in my experience, I've had problems where I just looked at someone, I said, I'm sorry, you're too much for me right now. Like, sorry, I gotta go. Right? Like this isn't my thing, man. I try to keep positive, keep myself positive, not in a forced positivity way, but like I'm not feeding into your negative self-talk is more what it is.
You're not bypassing. You're not doing the floaty, la-di-da, enlightenment is great, but you're just, where you stand, and because as we connect to our intuition and we are connecting more to our heart, we feel it at a gut level. You just know when it's your time to walk away from something. And
you also know that there's nothing you can do a lot of times. There's nothing you can do. Unless you're ready to learn, there is nothing you can do to help those people, right? Unfortunately, they have to drain themselves and everybody until they're isolated by themselves, which happened to me. I know what happened to you. It happens to all spiritual people I know, right? Where you had to keep draining from people until eventually they left you alone, right? Until eventually everyone abandoned you, and you had to sit there with your own self and decide, I'm sick of who I am. I'm sick of this version of me. I'm sick of doing it this way. There has to be another way. And that's the first seed, right? There has to be another way. And then from there, it's what am I willing to sacrifice to get there? But what you realize along that path is what you're sacrificing is just like negative self-talk. Is that really a sacrifice, or are you just upgrading for something better, right? You're getting rid of the old to upgrade to something new. It's something way better for you.
Exactly. And the narcissism and the vampiristic natures too, a lot of it is familial patterns. Like it's not like this person incarnated is like, well, I'm just gonna suck the soul out of every person.
No, it's familiar to them. Yeah, like they're like, I've been told I should be the victim, because let's be honest, it's everywhere. Right? We're constantly bombarded with, you are the victim, are you this, are you that, are you the next thing? Like even straight white men, I know I see it a lot of times being targeted directly at me. Like, are you straight white male? Well, it's because of minorities, or it's because of women. And I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake. Like Like, no, they're not, no, like, I'm not a victim. I'm just, I appreciate the attempt, but I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah,
To close the door on that idea.
Yeah, right.
And it's what you feed into, what you believe in. And that's so hard. That is so hard to like, to when you finally start owning your own shit, right? You start owning that, you know, if you believe you're a victim, you're going to be a victim. You believe you're successful, you're going to be successful. You believe. It has everything to do with, you know, like what you cultivate in here is what appears out there. And it sounds silly.
Yeah.
It sounds like bullshit. You and I both know it sounds too good to be true, because it's like, oh, there's no quick and easy pill. Not really, but it's the fact that it's not quick and easy. It's not just going to bed one night and going, I'm going to be successful, and then the next morning you wake up in a mansion, you know, with millions of dollars in a bank account. It's just those little changes, those little implements to prove that you aren't that person anymore. It's those little things of, you know, like, I'm saying I'm worthy of being successful, so therefore I'm going to go to bed on time. Or I'm going to start eating healthy, and you start vibrating slower and slower towards that. And you start building that momentum of becoming that successful version of yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll hit a one-hit wonder, but the point is you got to prove to the universe that you're willing to, I don't want to say put in the work, because most of the work is in here, but it's just that you're willing to flow with the universe. The universe is there to help you. And you just have to learn to go with the flow, regardless of, you know, take opportunities that you wouldn't take, do things you wouldn't do, travel to places you wouldn't go to, right? Like because the universe is trying to help you. It's trying to give you these breadcrumbs towards your dreams. And it's about identifying them, having that awareness, having that discernment, because there are going to be times where it's too easy, and you know it's too easy. You know, I had right now I'm as you know, I'm saving up for a better editing computer, and that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I'm doing terrible at it, by the way, but that's
how's that coming along, bud?
No, terrible. But anyways, but that's my own fault. That's my own fault for that.
Okay.
But I had someone in my reality show up who just gave me a really bad vibe, and he was offering to just buy it for me. But then it was
shortcut.
It was like I'm gonna get this for you, but we're gonna write a contract that you're gonna do some stuff for me. And I was like,
yeah, not everything that glitters is gold, bud. Not everything that glitters is gold, right?
And it was one of those things where I trusted my intuition, and I just said, this isn't for me. I apologize. It would have been great, right? He offered to buy me double the price of what I wanted. Right? Like it would have been a great rig, but at what cost?
Exactly.
Right? And at the cost of my intuition, which told me, no, this isn't for you. What is yours will come. Right. And I'm having these situations where I'm like, is that really what I want? And you know what I mean? And I'm just kind of flowing, and I'm letting my emotion not necessarily take over, but help guide me in that direction, because I feel that those emotions are also teachers, right? They're there to teach me what's good, what's bad, good, bad.
Yeah, exactly.
And all that, yeah. And it's there to just kind of like to lead me and to push me in those directions and say like, hey, this isn't what you want anymore. Like, this is old paradigm stuff. Get out of it then, right? Or we're gonna keep pushing you to make that decision for yourself, or your universe is going to make that decision, and it'll be much more painful when it just gets swept out from under you, as opposed to saying, nope, I see where the flow is trying to take me. Instead of fighting that current, I'm just going to ride with it, right? Because sometimes it'll make no sense. And I know right now it's making no sense for me for quitting a job I make decent money, and then working on, you know, doing that at home, doing Ascension coaching, or doing, you know, I wanted to do, like you and me talked about, I wanted to get into Reiki myself. I wanted to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And all of that is not guaranteed to pay the bills and everything, but it is something that I'm feeling guided towards healing. And right now, with that being my focus, it's kind of showing me those paths and saying there's also other creative outlets you can go down. And it's about whether I'm willing to jump in, right?
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, is that like the level of, because you know, you touched base about beliefs and changing those beliefs, and all of this is tying into something that I'm really focusing my attention on right now, which is scripting and the law of attraction and removing limiting beliefs and replacing them. And it all ties down to the fact that when we step into this role full time, first off, it's not going to be instant success for some people. It probably is. Me, it definitely hasn't been. But what is definitely blocking things from popping in is the state of lack. Is like the fact that since there is no viable, like, since I know that something, like, you know, well, let's just put it this way, since I'm aware that I don't have a steady stream of income now, and I'm trying to step into this full time, I have a lack mentality because I don't see the energy arriving. The energy exists. As you and I both know, energy is never created nor destroyed. It is always here.
Yeah.
And the importance of scripting in targeting those beliefs, and it's a tool that I'm stepping into now every single day. I have a place I go into. I have a coffee shop I go into down the street, and I script. I just sit there and I write down my affirmations. And it's very, I never understood the importance of when we are stepping into a completely new role on the lightworker journey, and we are going after what we want, you know, because just like, and I wanted to reference this book, The Alchemist, you know, when a person is following their legend, the universe will conspire to give them everything they need. And when we are stepping into these new roles, and full time into destiny, there is a level of old archetypes that now have to be thrown away in the integration of a new archetype, to create, because we're stepping into a completely unfamiliar territory. And Absolutely. Our character, our avatar, can still be integrated into this new reality, but it is time to take upon a new archetype, to integrate with the current avatar that we are serving in order to better understand our roles. And this is where value and trauma and shadow work and letting go really comes into play. And it's something I'm struggling with right now, because I still have a lot of, I would sit there and consciously be like, yeah, you know, I'm in a new paradigm. All those old beliefs are gone. But then when you are stripped down to nothing, just bare bones in your soul essence, you realize how much you haven't changed in some ways. And it's time to target those things and to step in and to script them out and to change those beliefs by embedding new ones into our subconscious, which, you know, I noticed, like, when I was doing my, with Samantha Rodriguez, when she does her clearing limiting beliefs and things like that, we can clear the energy. But also, for me, it helped to, since I have a multidimensional disease and I'm trying to step into a multidimensional mindset, I have to attack this from different dimensions. And I don't mean like in different planes of existence. I mean, I have to attack the thought form. I have to attack the energy. I have to change the belief. I have to change my physical representation of that belief in my body. And so now it's not only the energy, but it's the combination of the thought form and the energy working into play. And that's where now I'm really stepping into working with energy and discussion, not only letting my vibration hold space for those things to pop up, but literally applying Reiki energy while I'm working through these belief systems to help to really remove that block. Because it's the energy that's tied to the thought form. And if we just remove the energy alone, the thought form still resides. So we have to attack it from all angles. And that's a lot of part about being a multidimensional being, is that there are so many facets that make up our being: the soul essence, the thought form, the physical form, our higher self, our temporal self. You know, all of these things coming into play, we need to attack it from all angles. You know? Yeah,
absolutely. And we have all the tools we need, or if we don't, we make them. Right. And that's what a lot of this, what a lot of this is what I'm getting from it, right? Is you realize that you can, whatever exercise you want to do, you want to create the golden ball, create the golden ball. You want to meditate and imagine that negative entity or that negative emotion as a physical thing, and then let it transform. You can do that. We have so much creative freedom. We're a part of source, right? We have this creative energy, and whatever you believe happens. And it works. If you believe it works, it works. You want to go down to a you know, third age shop and grab a piece of stone and say, this is going to be the solver of all my problems, right? Like, this is it. This stone, Exactly.
Right? This is how
this stone is it.
yeah.
This is the grand design. And if you really believe in that, it's gonna work. It's gonna clear you up. It's gonna provide whatever it is you need, right? And that's a difficult thing for people to understand, is that we have all the tools within.
Yeah.
We just give ourselves these physical things that can shape our realities, right? We give the physical more meaning than the internal, and it's a lot of internal work. It's a lot of internal work.
And it's also too, it's being able to, like, because there is a kind of a streamlined process for various tools that we can use in our kit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that if a tool works, you can also reshape that tool to work in your favor. And this is another discussion I had. It's funny that this popped up, is that another discussion I had last night with Samantha was about, you know, like different visualizations, for instance. Like, I have a very tough time visualizing, for some reason, visualizing myself connecting to divine white light and like flooding through. It takes a while for that visualization process to come in. And so I decided to insert a new visualization, which is, I imagine me holding an electric guitar and I plug it in with a cord.
Oh, okay.
That's such an easy, quick visualization. And it, once again, it's not the visualization itself, it's the intention. It's just like it's like casting a spell. It's like anything else. It is not the exact word for word verbatim. It is the ritual, the intention that is behind all of this.
Yeah.
And this is what's really neat about these tools. And like, you know, I hear guided meditations and things like that. And it's like, you know, for one person, a guided visualization may be, you know, sitting there and getting, you know, a golden shower of white light that's helping them to connect. One person, it might be, you know, playing with a soccer ball out in a field. But however you got to connect to it, however you understand the representation of what it is, that is what's beautiful about this creative process with our spiritual tools, is that like there are kind of these cookie cutter tools, but we can reshape them.
While we are all one, we're also unique, and that's one thing that helps greatly, right? Allowing that uniqueness to pull through. I remember you said to me, you're like, all right, spiritual warrior, what color is your shield? Right? What weapon are you using? Right? And allowing that creative flow all of a sudden changed kind of how I looked at how I attacked these kind of aspects of myself. Attacked obviously with kindness, not with a weapon, but it allowed me to really look at it from a different perspective, and it was kind of like a wow moment for me, where I'm like, man, like these guided meditations, all this stuff, all they are is ideas. That's all they are. It's just somebody, this worked for me. Take the general idea, the general feeling it gives you when you think about, when you put your mind in that sort of wave and allow it to go in whatever direction you want it, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, you and me did that meditation again, where I visualized this thing and I allowed it to change. And when you and me were talking about it, it was allow it to change into yourself as a child. And for me, it wouldn't go that way. It went as teenage, right? It went to a very specific time in my life, and I went, that's how it had to happen, right? It had to be that way. It had to shape that way, and it had to be unique for me. And I think some people take it a little bit too, when they're going down this path. I know me at the very beginning, I'm like, it has to be exactly the way they say it. Because you're right, there's a lot of guided meditations that I'm like focusing, and I'm like, I live in Canada. I live in Canada. Not a lot of light. Not a lot of light. I don't know what bathing in light feels like. No, not really. But you know what I mean.
Me neither.
Yeah. Right. But and it's one of those things that, like, you know, I could see myself blanketed in snow. That's a lot easier. So maybe that's where in maple syrup or whatever.
Yeah. The maple syrup. Let's do it. All right.
That's it. Yeah.
No,
come out to Cali, and that's our guided meditation. Right? I just want you to close your eyes and breathe and feel like you're just being doused in a golden maple syrup. I'm just saying.
This is
Corey, you got your pen and your paper? Write this down. Okay, write this down. Your guided meditation.
All right,
there you go.
Maple syrup with
maple syrup guided meditation.
Pour some sugar on me going on.
In the background.
Pour some sugar on me. All right.
Someone will work.
All right. So when are we going to start making money off of this?
Yeah. When's our abundance start to flow with this?
Yeah,
like maple syrup, a little slow.
Can I get? Yeah, right.
Yeah. But for someone out there, that's exactly what they need to hear. And that's the part I love so much about doing this, is that there's gonna be a lot of this stuff that people aren't gonna relate to, but there is gonna be little things that their higher self is sitting there like, holy shit, I just needed the maple syrup thing. Like, I get it now. Like, I'm so awoke now.
Mr. Divine Masculine, April 2019.
Yeah.
Arsenal in maple syrup.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Shot immediately.
Yeah.
On the calendar. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all about translation. You know, it's all about how we interpret and translate. And that's what is, you know, even what's really interesting is like that little moment there, that moment of humor in all of this is like, it's another key aspect, transmutation.
Yeah.
When it comes down to us taking in this very dark and very sometimes morbid experience of spiritual awakening, we can find humor in it. And that's what is so vital in the transmutation process, is like being able to seek the comedy in this, because you and I both know we've had very heavy moments. I mean, together we've even talked about these moments where I had moments where I was creating my own death. I've been suicidal in this stuff, or having those ideations. And by the way, clear, cancel, delete universe, I'm not creating that into my reality. This is just an observation zone. Thank you. I always have to do that now when I start talking about this stuff, so it doesn't create in my reality. But being able to seek humor in those dark moments, because that is where you know, that's transmutation right there. When people say, oh, what is transmuting? It's like, have you ever had a moment where you're breaking down crying and then your friend makes you laugh and you just feel better? That's how you flip. That's how you flip the script.
Absolutely.
You know,
it's not taking life too seriously, because it isn't.
No,
it feels like it from this, when you're living that reality of course it feels so serious. It feels like this is the end all be all. This is it. This is all it is. But when you take that away, you realize, like, man, it's not that bad. It's not that serious. It's not that terrible.
No, it isn't. And it isn't until we get to the other side of it and can really see the divine orchestration of the learning lesson, and the whys, which is very hard to see in the thick of it. And I love the analogy I've used a lot, which is, you know, when the mud storm comes in, if we see it from a human perspective, it's a complete mess. But if we see it from the perspective of a pig, that's a gold mine right there. It's a gold mine. And that's why, you know, like I today when people are like, how are you doing? I'm like, you know, I've got some shit going on, but it's gold covered shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because there's once we get outside of it, and sometimes it's hard to really, from our temporal view, go up into our higher self and see the orchestration. Sometimes we can see what's unfolding and know what's going to come of it, but it's not usually until we're on the outside of the circumstances that we can see the gold in those situations. And it's a lot easier for us to not take it super seriously, you know, and to kind of flow into it and to let those things come, because once we face it with resistance too, it can make it a little bit more painful. Yeah. Especially when it comes to stepping into our destiny, aligning with our purpose, you know, and that ability of sink or swim. You know, sometimes we can either jump in by ourselves. We can start at the shallow end and work our way to the deep end, or the universe is going to be like, well, and just push you right in. You know? And
you're ready. You've had your water wings on for a long time, right?
Me right now. That's where I've been. I'm like, I'm treading water, and then I sink, and then I get up, and I'm like treading, but I never sink. That's just my perspective. You know what I mean?
It feels like you're gonna sink, because you're fighting as opposed to just letting yourself and floating on the water. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, and I'm glad we had an opportunity to do this, because it was also a good time we haven't been able to talk in a few weeks with just going, so it's good to kind of touch base and to get back into the scope of things, but to be able to co-create, because, you know, I love doing this. This is why I stepped into this, is to just get a meeting of the minds and to be able to discuss some very real aspects of what we face. And I want to say I'm really proud of where you're at on your journey and what you're stepping into and how you're expanding and growing, and you're getting your feet wet and you're diving in, dude. And I'm proud of you. Yeah. Definitely proud of you, bud.
And the same goes for you. Like, I'm so glad to see you taking that step. I know you and me talked about it, how it's like, it's scary. It's scary saying, you know what, I trust you, universe, right? I'm getting into it. I know it's still those doubts, right? There's still those doubts floating around, but I'm excited to see that you're still above water, right? You're still floating. There's a couple of scary steps. You got water in your mouth, but you're still on top. You're still on top, man.
Yeah, and I'm you know, I know that too, is because with every downfall that's happened in my spiritual awakening journey, it's built resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, today my problems are beautiful problems to have. They're really good problems. They're still problems, don't get me wrong, but in perspective compared to where they were at a while ago, the problems today are very beautiful. And I also do know too that these problems and these struggles happen to build strength and to build character, so I can embody this best version of myself, so I can step into it with grace and dignity and really learn to trust the process. And that's a part of it is that we know that we signed up for this. All of this stuff I signed up for because I wanted to become whatever I wanted to become, more to be revealed with time. But let's just say the powerful, magical being that I am, and being able to every day and every step I take closer to this is remembering the magic that is my life and trusting that magic, you know, and really trusting and owning that magic. So Tyler, thank you. I hope we can get time to do this again. We will. We definitely will.
We will. Whether maybe not as on a public forum, but we'll definitely. We'll definitely keep talking. Yeah.
But more. Hopefully, we can get some more podcasts out and keep this topic rolling, and to watch you step into your power, and to watch you finally get on YouTube and start coaching and helping people.
Oh God, here it goes. Here's the inevitable.
Oh, did I just? Walk away.
Yeah.
Walk away. All right, Tyler. Much love and respect to you, bud. My love sent to you from California.
Absolutely, and from up here in the chilly north.
That's right. Thank you again, bud, and we will talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy.